Let's talk terminology. I wanted to do another video, same video as I think one of my first videos, talking about the terminology of awakening, self-realization, and enlightenment. Just redo the video, I guess. Maybe I'll not be so nervous. So, spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening refers to the spirit that is inside of you. Spirit meaning the consciousness inside of you, your spiritual electronic light being that is you, inside of you, awakening to itself. Okay? That this process, this spirit awakening inside of you, has nothing to do with the mind. Okay? So, when someone is first being introduced and awakening to things beyond this third dimensional reality, they're beginning to connect with their guides, they realize they're much more than the body, and they're investigating all of these awesome metaphysical law of attraction, intuitive things. That really, technically, the gurus out there, or technically, they would this is not a spiritual awakening, although that term is being used like for everything. The teachers, the texts would tell you that this is more of a mind opening rather than spiritual awakening. Okay? Because the mind it's the mind that's kind of opening up its previously held structures to accept new information. Okay? So it's a mind opening. But I use it as spiritual awakening. It's just easier. You are in an awakening process. Okay? But the teachers out there would say, you're still dreaming. You're still stuck in the illusion. And the spirit inside of you is still sleeping. So these are the terms: you're asleep or awake or awakening. Okay? So as you go along and you're expanding the limits of your mind, you need to do this. It's the most critical aspect, to open up the mind to accept these new ideas. And then you get to a point, and look, awakenings can happen like bing, bang, all over the place, different levels at different times, from zero to nothing, or you can go real step-by-step process. So I'm just talking about the step-by-step levels, okay? But people are waking up in all different ways and levels, so who knows? This is the terminology. So a spiritual awakening truly begins when a person has had a self-realization event or happening. That means that the spirit or consciousness inside of you has woken up to itself. It has had a direct experience of its true nature, source, God, whatever you want to call it. And it woke up to itself. The mind is not involved. The mind and the personality are not involved in this event. And this event, you will know when it happens, okay? So you can say this self-realization is the beginning of a spiritual awakening. Now, some people out there will call this event enlightenment. I do not. To me, this is just, you've got your nose over the wall of enlightenment, or beginning to get near enlightenment, and you're just kind of hanging on for dear life. This is a huge event, but it's still just peeking over the edge, okay? And then you have, so that's a spiritual awakening, but you can't say you're fully awake. So the levels in a spiritual awakening go like this. You have a self-realization, direct experience of self, and it shakes your world because the consciousness in you wakes up. It's big, it's huge. And then you have, I'm referring to the levels of consciousness, 7 levels of consciousness, from sleeping, waking, and then I can't remember all of them, but self-realization is cosmic consciousness. You've had a direct experience of self, and now you have this cosmic consciousness of life. And then you go to God consciousness, and I'm not going to explain all the levels. God consciousness, unity consciousness. And when someone hits unity consciousness, a stable level of unity consciousness, well, I don't know if it's stable. When you hit unity consciousness, you could say that that person now is fully awake, okay? But not enlightened. Although, I mean, this is my perspective. When someone is fully awake, then I think, this is my opinion, then I think the enlightenment process begins. And it is, but many people along this path, right, during the awakening path, will call this enlightenment. That's fine, who cares anyway? It's just terminology. But to me, enlightenment happens when, or can begin, this is, by the way, awakening is an ongoing, everlasting, forever, ever process. You're not ever going to be done, okay? Spirit goes on and it'll just keep evolving and evolving. So full awakening, and then Kundalini has to be fully awake, because enlightenment, what does that word mean? The prefix en means within, and light, so light within. So that to me means, or sounds like, embodiment of the light that is you. So for me, enlightenment begins only after unity consciousness, and then maybe it goes to Brahman consciousness. I don't even know what that level is. And enlightenment is the process of embodying these levels of consciousness in your body and living your life from that level of truth, clearing out all the stuff in your chakras and your body. Literally changes your DNA to uncover more light, okay? And it's kind of an ascending and descending process, because your causal body or your light body now begins to descend into you. The enlightenment or embodiment process happens. So that's what I consider enlightenment. And that is, these stages can take lifetimes. So awakening, spiritual awakening, can take a lifetime. To be fully awake, it is said, and it doesn't really matter, I'm just clarifying for you. I'm just kind of showing you that there's all these terms being used, and people are using them interchangeably for many things. And somebody may say they're enlightened, but and they think they're done with the journey, and they get all, and I don't think they are. There's a lot more to go. So full awakening, unity consciousness, and then enlightenment can begin. Or maybe it all happens all at the same time. Who knows? But when I use those terms, now you know what I'm talking about. Enlightenment to me means the descension of the light body, the ascension of your Kundalini, where they meet at the heart, okay? And then your DNA changes to reveal the light that's already there. That's embodiment, enlightenment. So let's see, do I have anything else to add to that? Totally not necessary to know all this, but it can be confusing. Okay, I think that's enough school for today. Class dismissed.